Welcome to the 5G Hub. Here we'll provide you with peeking insight as to why 5G and its related applications are so attractive to be involved in today and moving into the future. Additionally, we'll give you an insider look as to how Hub 350 and the Canada North Tech Park is supporting partner companies and enabling their development in these emerging industries. In today's episode, we will dive deeper into the topic of healthcare and 5G. You will receive insider access on insightful conversations with Ben Morris, the Vice President of Technology Strategy at Wesley Clover, and Amy Karam, a 5G thought leader from TELUS, facilitated by Leo Lax, the Executive Managing Director at Elspark. You will also get the chance to hear from Kevin Hallen, the Chief Product Officer at CliniConnex, and Bruce Ford, the CEO and founder of Celestra Health Systems. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the 5G Hub, a podcast brought to you by Hub 350.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Frame, Director of Partnerships here at Hub 350. Hub 350 is the gateway to Canada's largest technology park, powered by the Canada North Business Association. Hub 350 is an ecosystem for industry, academia, and investment partners to collaborate and innovate in the heart of Canada North. With over 540 companies who collectively employ over 33,000 workers, KNBA has a long history in telecommunications and is home to several industry giants like Ciena, Ericsson, and Nokia. The hub excels in areas such as autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, and IoT, aiming to create a 5G connected community.
My name is Drayden, and I'm here today with my colleagues Daria and Purya.
Hey everyone, this is Daria, so happy to be back.
Hi, my name is Purya. I'm excited to be a part of today's episode.
We are interns from Carleton University partnering with Hub 350 and KNBA, the gateway to Canada's largest tech park, to conduct investigative market research and create insightful content that we are so excited to share with you, KNBA's amazing community of innovators, leaders, and industry professionals. In our last episode, we went into detail about connected autonomous vehicles and 5G. We broke down how these vehicles function, the benefits and advantages they provide, and we received industry insight from AV industry professionals partnered with KNBA and Hub 350 at Elspark, Sensor Cortec, ThinkRF, the University of Ottawa, and Invest Ottawa's Area X.0.
We definitely recommend you to listen to that episode as well.
To start off today's episode, we will hear from Leo Lax, the Executive Managing Director at Elspark, who has stepped in for us and facilitated a very insightful conversation with Ben Morris, the Vice President of Technology Strategy at Wesley Clover. This segment will help you understand the importance of emerging 5G connectivity in IoT applications across industries, particularly in the healthcare sector.
Okay, well, hello everybody. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Leo Lax. I'm Executive Managing Director at Elspark, and I'm super excited about the Hub 350 Living Lab environment and want to chat with some of the people who are involved in implementing some applications for this Living Lab. And with that, let me introduce you to Ben Morris, who's Vice President of Technologies at Wesley Clover. Ben, tell me a little bit about you and why you are so passionate about the Living Lab.
Leo, thanks for the introduction and what a great opportunity. I am super excited, not just about the lab, but 5G, IoT, and all sorts of new applications that are coming down the pipe as a result of new capabilities that are being unlocked by new networks and new applications or new capabilities that are being offered, not just by the service providers, but also the hyperscalers like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. The world has accelerated in a dramatic manner, over the last 10 years. Think about all the crazy and wild, applications that have been invented and implemented and adopted by billions of people. And, that was a result of 4G LTE and capabilities that were not previously possible that are now available through these hyperscalers. Clearly, 5G introduces an entirely new wave of capabilities that people will seize on and be able to create new and exciting applications around. So I couldn't be more excited to see what the future holds and how Hub 350 and the community of Canada North will be able to take advantage of things, going forward.
Well, that's really great. It is kind of an ongoing environment over here. Everything is quote unquote live. That means that we are experimenting, we are engaging, we are learning, and we are moving forward. Now, you mentioned the word IoT, stands for Internet of Things. And it is part of, we know, a digital transformation. Can you give us some examples of how enterprises will take this new thing called IoT and make use of it to improve their businesses?
Sure. I think the most important thing to recognize up front, Leo, is that, IoT is something that we as consumers have been pretty familiar with and comfortable interacting with over the last number of years. Think, about your Amazon Alexa at home, for example, or your connected camera, or perhaps your connected thermostat.
Yeah,
These are examples
sure.
of IoT hardware devices and applications. And as a consumer, you and I can feel pretty good and comfortable about
For sure.
how these work and how they've improved our lives or provided us with new capabilities to, create a more comfortable environment. You're returning from a holiday, you want to make sure the house is nice and cozy when you arrive. It's very easy to log into your thermostat and turn on the heat. What we've just described is very consumer centric and consumer focused and would not necessarily be appropriate for a business or an enterprise type application or environment. And so IoT and 5G, in my opinion, go hand in hand. IoT and 5G is all about Industry 4.0, the enablement of machine to machine processes in a manner that is appropriate for an enterprise. So what does that mean? If you're the CIO or the CTO, the chief technical officer of a large enterprise, the number one thing you're going to be concerned about is security. The number two thing you're going to be worried about is quality of service. Are these devices that I put out on my network actually working? Are they reporting the correct telemetry? Are they doing the things that they're designed to do? And I, as the head of these things, feel comfortable that they're behaving, in a satisfactory manner. Because, if you're instrumenting a supply chain or an autonomous robot or a vehicle, it has to work. Like, failure is not an option. And so for me, what IoT really represents going forward is this massive wave of instrumentation of new devices and technologies that will enable more productivity, more automation, and more of that sort of like thing that we've become accustomed to as consumers, that that safety, that security, that automation, that comfort. I think a lot of that is really coming to enterprise over the next, say, 5 or 10 years, and much of that being done through 5G and secure networks and service level agreements and quality assurance.
Perfect. I think one of the two areas that we are particularly looking at exercising inside the Living Lab is dealing with a particular part of IoT, dealing with healthcare. So we've all kind of gone through the COVID world, and we recognize that we are now expecting and hoping that we can get some healthcare services over the network. That is certainly happens through an IoT implementation. Can you give us some examples of maybe one or two areas where healthcare would benefit from a 5G and healthcare and an IoT implementation?
Well, Leo, I think when you think about healthcare, you have to almost think of healthcare like you're driving a car. If you're driving a connected car and it goes off network and goes and falls off the road, you've got a problem. The same or similar thing exists within the healthcare space. You cannot have devices that are reporting, data that is incorrect. And so for the same reason that I described earlier, a 5G environment provides guaranteed network connectivity. It provides, redundant failover capabilities. It provides service level agreements to make sure that the packets traveling between the device and the network and the server infrastructure is correctly received in the order that it was intended. And so I think, where we are going to see 5G play a significant role in the healthcare sector is actually going to be in the connectivity of devices inside the healthcare institutions. So not the devices that you and I walk around with on our wrists that are checking our blood pressure and pulse and blood sugar levels, but perhaps more in the connectivity of imaging machines that have massive throughput requirements that are connecting over a wireless connectivity means back into the the server farm or the compute capabilities that the hospital is hosting. Why do I think this is the potential forefront of sort of a 5G or an IoT enablement capability in the healthcare space? I think it's a function of costing. It costs a lot of money to put switches and cabling and redundant cabling and wireless failover into a hospital environment Not to mention, it makes it very difficult for a hospital or a healthcare setting to be dynamic, right? One day you want a room to be, room type A, and the next you want a room to be room type B, and sort of flex on the fly. You think about COVID, right? All of a sudden, emergency rooms were packed with people coming in for testing. Well, you need like a very dynamic physical environment to be able to accommodate.
Almost like a software-defined hospital.
You know what, Leo? Maybe you're onto something. That could be it. And so I think when you're thinking about, refactoring a hospital, moving equipments around, moving crash carts around, moving imaging carts around, moving connected beds and people around, this idea of a private 5G network in the healthcare environment seems like a very real possibility for me in the sort of the more immediate to medium, term time frame.
Sounds very interesting. We are all familiar with our patient care related activities that are more personal in nature, and IoT can help transmit, if you will, those information to some central area or local area where they can be accessed by a wide range of healthcare workers. And that's one of the more common applications that we've seen, but you're also highlighting the more enterprise-oriented applications where this transformation is actually changing the way the business of healthcare is operating, the way the hospital behaves and operates and responds to the variety of requirements. That's thank you. I appreciate that.
What great perspectives. This conversation between Leo and Ben really highlighted some of the amazing opportunities that these capabilities would allow for, which will positively impact the lives of so many individuals in need.
Exactly, Pouria. Leo also facilitated a great conversation with Abby Karam, a subject matter expert who's currently working at TELUS in the 5G for leadership and enablement role. Her insight on digital transformation will be included in next week's episode, but today let's hear Amy's point of view and knowledge on 5G connectivity in the world of healthcare.
So I guess this kind of a change and this perceptual change almost in how we do things is going to permeate every single element of what we do. And of course, it's exciting to actually transform that into what we are doing right here in Canada. TELUS has introduced a 5G network in here, has also provided an environment here to allow us to play, if you will, with applications in the 5G network and allow real people to say, this is actually adding some value to what I'm doing today. And is there any specific area you think you're particularly passionate about that 5G is going to change your life?
Oh, my life? Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
There's a number of ways, and of course there aren't a favorite, but I think one way that is one of my favorites for all of our life really is if I might just touch on healthcare. And one use case is really the connected ambulance. Right? Connected ambulance, meaning a 5G enabled ambulance. And the reason I'm excited about it is, again, going back to the why, what are the outcomes and how is this helping? Well, I'm going to start with the end in mind, and then I'm going to explain how it works, right? The connected ambulance really helps us achieve outcomes like saving lives faster. And even if the life is saved, you can mitigate strokes in real time by diagnosing and helping the patient in the ambulance and not waiting for them to arrive. You can also help alleviate a lot of the costs on the healthcare system. I don't know, we hear about it all the time. How often do we hear, budget controls, we can't expand the capacity of the hospitals. We heard a lot about that during COVID, didn't we? Please don't come to the hospital because we don't have beds for you, or we can't afford, right, that capacity. Sorry, Leo, were you going to say something?
So I guess the connected ambulance in that case, because we have connected ambulances today under the 4G. But I think the big difference, as I see it, the way I understand what you're saying, is by allowing 5G to permeate the connected ambulance environment, it allows the doctor who happens to be sitting in the hospital to feel like they are right next to the patient in the ambulance, that today it would be totally impossible because it'll take him multiple milliseconds before the doctor will start speaking and will be able to actually enable something in the ambulance to happen because of this delay. So we are compressing that delay, and that will actually create that life-saving opportunity. Is that something that...
Definitely the communication, but here's where it gets even especially cool, Leo, right? If you wanted to start talking the future and why this ultra low latency capability is really important. Now, the limitations really are is you have a lot of these doctor specialists in the hospitals
for sure.
and the clinics, right? But the paramedics don't have the specialization. The paramedics are in the ambulance. Their task is to troubleshoot. Now, with 5G, right, the surgeons or the experts in the hospital can tap into through using video and using even like haptic gloves, right? To take the diagnostics that are really essential. Paramedics can take basic diagnostics, but can they really interpret it to the level of degree and specificity that the surgeon can? Right. So the doctors can use the paramedics and using the technology and this haptic glove to take the say the pulse or whatever the diagnostics are and interpret them in real time and instruct that paramedic on what to do so that you can avoid some of these really life critical instances where time is of the essence, right? Because it's not only even getting them to the hospital, it's getting them into a room and getting them to see someone. So wouldn't it be cool, right? That these specialists can, and again, right, you need that real-time connectivity to be able to do that diagnosing and fielding.
So wouldn't it be nice now? Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say also there's a, and this is especially helpful for some of these remote communities. We keep talking about bridging the digital divide and 5G and how it's going to help. Well, this is yet one other way, right? It's not just about getting internet to remote communities and having students get online, which is also very important, right? But imagine these people that don't have access to surgeons within a 30-minute or 20-minute drive. You can have more equitable access and healthcare for so many more Canadians.
So I'm looking forward to the time when right here in Canada, I'm going to be able to have one of these connected ambulances being able to be available and deliver their services going forward. I think we kind of reached the end of our discussion. I really appreciate the time you've given us and the insight you shared with us going forward. Looking forward to see you right here in the Living Lab, working with our teams and with the companies that are bringing their innovation here. And I'm hoping that in the near future, we'll be able to actually experience all the capabilities that 5G will be bringing forward. Thank you very much, Jamie.
Hey, thank you, Leo. Me too. I look forward to seeing you soon.
More fantastic outlooks and interesting use case examples in line with healthcare and 5G. Thank you, Leo, for facilitating this discussion.
Yes, and thank you, Amy, for your insight. Amy also holds a very interesting role at TELUS, a leading telecommunications company that is playing a major role in the health tech industry through TELUS Health. TELUS Health is collaborating with medical professionals and integrating advanced solutions to improve access, increase efficiency, allow for seamless flow of health information, provide patients with first-hand access to managing their own health, and improving overall healthcare experiences.
TELUS Health partners with so many companies to provide their solutions. Our next interviewee, Karen Hallen, the Chief Product Officer at ClinicalNX, a rapidly growing health tech startup that has partnered with TELUS Health since the early stages of their company.
Very cool. So essentially, ClinicalNX has developed a simpler way to coordinate care. Their light touch workflow engagement platform helps care providers automate communications and engagement to simplify healthcare journeys for patients, families, and staff.
ClinicalNX's SaaS native platform is designed first as being a scalable and reliable SaaS infrastructure. The platform has a solid foundation that is able to scale and build all of their solutions from. This solid base in development adaptability has allowed the company to be able to service several different care settings across Canada and the United States, from primary care to specialists to long-term care. Long-term care is a place that they have achieved significant adoption and growth over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic.
ClinicalNX has access to over 5,000 medical professionals, more than 1,000 medical clinics, over 2,200 senior care facilities, and has allowed for over 40 million messages to be sent across their platform.
Their platform improves communication, helps return more time to care for patients, ensures regulatory compliance, and helps better prepare for emergency situation. Let's hear from Kevin about how ClinicalNX can help both the patients and the medical professionals.
What the patient is going to see when they are using the services from, let's say, a primary care setting in Canada, is they're going to be getting sort of a appointment reminder, and the content is going to be very specific and targeted to what they need to do. So if they were expected to bring in their medications or running shoes that have a stress test, all of those interesting variations, a thing that we just built and have support for. What the providers see is we connect into their medical record system. So there's no separate system to go and interact with. We just look at the schedule and we'll go and run our workflows and do all the updates based on what's happening in the schedule. So that's really important to go and make our technology easy to adopt. Those types of solutions can support appointment reminders. They can support recalls. So you had a visit, you need to come back at some point in the future. And they can also be connected into a patient journey. So we can go connect all these particular moments of care to something that's going to go and achieve a good outcome for the individual. And through sort of the work with our partners, understand that just showing up is key to you being successful, but also engaging in the times where you're not receiving care to provide information. In long-term care, we created a user-facing application so you can do mass notifications, but also very targeted. So in COVID, as you probably heard in the news, there was lots of COVID-19 impacting long-term care settings. And in jurisdictions like in the United States, they had a very short window, 24 hours, to go and deliver information about what's happening in the home. So we provided automation to go and allow them to achieve that, and have built capabilities that are expanding the reach and better targeting.
It's great that companies like CliniConnects were able to step in during urgent times and provide these efficient solutions to the healthcare system in times when they needed it the most.
The goals are to go and continue growing in additional segments of healthcare. So healthcare is becoming more integrated. So there's primary care specialists, there's long-term care, there's hospitals, there's payers, and all of these healthcare providers and systems and consumers have needs, and they have a significant resource constraint that you can't find enough skilled people. Your nurses, the lack of nursing in the care setting is something that is in the news almost daily, where people are unable to go and even open an emergency department because they simply don't have enough people. So there is an acute lack of resources. And we think the solution is going to require technology innovation, as well as things that we can provide. And then governments will need to provide sort of the, increase the access, increase the supply of nurses. And we can see, and that applies to all care providers.
Again, such a great solution in a time where, as Kevin mentioned, there's a significant lack of resources. The innovative SaaS platforms like the ones CliniConnects develops definitely play a key role in increasing the efficiency in the healthcare systems, lightening the burden of resource shortages, especially to serve labor shortages that we are seeing across industries today, particularly in healthcare.
Yes, exactly. This is great. Although 5G is not CliniConnect's current focus in terms of integrating it into their solutions just yet, Kevin provided us with some insight into how 5G connectivity could be useful to their product in the future.
Where a company like CliniConnects could use it is to go and open up the aperture of the type of information that we're exchanging. So we're sending an email, an SMS, or an automated voice call. With 5G and the ability to go and consume the available bandwidth, a natural way would be to go and reach people with higher fidelity information and have the information coming back to us, higher volume as well.
Certainly, 5G can provide these exact capabilities, but in the meantime, 4G connectivity is great to carry out these health tech systems and help industry professionals and patients. Great to learn about all that CliniConnects has to offer.
Yes, for sure. Another amazing startup in the health tech industry located right here in the Canada North Tech Park is Celestra Health. Their mission is to improve multiple sclerosis or MS disease monitoring through clinician-led goal setting and objective data gathering to assist in clinical decision-making. Celestra Health is doing this by developing a solution that uses smart insoles containing a variety of high-precision sensors to feed critical body movement data to a smartphone app. This will enable patients and doctors to better manage the realities of living with this lifelong condition.
Let's hear from Bruce Ford, the CEO and founder of Celestra Health Systems, who will provide us with more details about the medtech industry and his fascinating company's solution.
Medtech as a topic is fairly broad. I mean, it can there's billions of dollars of investment going into it. It could be billing systems, it could be patient reminders, it could be electronic health record integrations. What we're doing is focusing on remote patient monitoring. So that's obviously a section of the larger market, but there's some very powerful trends behind it. And so what we've done is something fairly novel. So we're developing a solution. It's wearable based. It allows patients to be monitored at home, but we're initially targeting patients with multiple sclerosis. And I'll talk maybe a little more about what multiple sclerosis is, but it's a neurological condition. Canada actually has the highest rate of MS in the world, which is quite remarkable unto itself. And it's typically diagnosed for patients in their 20s. This is something that hits you when you're in the prime of your life, and it's a very specialized, obviously, disease. And our solution is not exclusively based, but primarily based on monitoring the patient's motion. And we've done that by the use of smart insole technology.
Bruce mentioned that by discussing and working with MS doctors and neurologists, they recognize the major lack of consistency and validity in the tests that they are performing to date to monitor and diagnose MS patients. These issues are due to the variations of the patient's state day to day, subjective observation tests, long wait times between specialist appointments, and more. Bruce will give us insight as to what these MS specialists are ideally looking for.
It would be great if there was a continuum of data, and that would smooth out the effects of the good days and the bad days, and it would give them something objective that they could look at, and they would know for a fact whether your balance is getting worse, whether you're starting to drag your feet, whether your stance is widening. There's a whole bunch of indicators there. So, you know, the enthusiasm for this solution from patients, because it would provide them with knowledge, and it would also be an early warning system. So if things were getting out of control or deteriorating, they would have hard evidence to say that, and then they would schedule a visit with their clinician, and then they would change their drug therapy, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Such an amazing solution. Bruce also touched on a few other diseases that affect body movement, which could also be monitored or diagnosed by Celestra's solutions. These are Lou Gehrig's disease and Parkinson's disease. The quality of data that Celestra Health Solutions are able to collect with their cost-efficient products is so fascinating.
We've done some benchmarking against, you know, the $1 million gait lab that they have, and we're getting almost exactly the same results. So for a pair of insoles that cost a few $100s, to be able to get the same results that you'd get from a $1 million gait lab, it's quite remarkable.
The increased accessibility that Celestra will provide to MS patients in particular is another remarkable aspect of this technology.
There's somewhere around 3 million patients globally. But, if you look at the US as a market, there's 1 million patients there. And, it was a bit of a shock to me when I found out that these drug therapies that most patients are taking, they're not inexpensive. The average drug therapy in the US costs $70,000 per year per patient. So you do the math there, 1 million patients, $70,000 per year. Now they're not all taking drug therapies, but that is really the only tool right now in the toolbox for slowing down your disease. It's a massive market in terms of revenue, and it's the second most expensive disease to manage in the US.
This is such a revolutionary solution that will help patients all around the world. With the development of wearable technology, solutions like these could grow to benefit a majority of the global population. Let's hear from Bruce about the state of the market for this type of technology, particularly in the medtech industry.
I've looked at the numbers, and the smartwatch technology is mixed in with all sorts of other wearable devices, and the market over the next 7 or 8 years, like right now, it's according to a report that was published earlier this year. Right now, it's a $30 billion global market, but it's expected to grow to $200 billion by 2027. Whoa. So that's 5 years away, and that, if you do the math on that, it's a annual growth rate of just over 25%. So it's I think intuitively people understand that there's a strong desire that the population has, and there's no question this trend is happening to sort of instrument their body and to find out and to have not just the data, the raw data, but to actually derive health-related insights from these wearable devices. So that's a massive trend, and you see it even if you have an iPhone, for example, or you can see that Apple Health is becoming more and more sophisticated as an example. And the other driver we're seeing is that as people live longer, it's not just that, but there's an increase in the number of people with chronic conditions, and in many cases multiple chronic conditions. So and as the population ages, there's more of a need to monitor these patients so that they're not so much just safe, but it's really around proactively finding out when things are going off track, so you can actually proactively take action.
A growing market for sure. It is so great to have received insight from Mr. Ford, the CEO and founder of Celestra Health Systems, who's developing these life-changing technologies in the Canada North Tech Park, so close to us here at Hub 350.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the 5G Hub surrounding healthcare and 5G.
Through insider access to industry professional insight, we hope that you now have a greater grasp of why 5G and its related healthcare applications are so attractive to be involved in today and moving into the future, and how Hub 350 and the Canada North Tech Park is supporting partner companies and enabling their development in the emerging health tech industry.
Make sure you tune in into our upcoming episode that will focus on the topics of finance and 5G connectivity. And if you haven't already, make sure you listen to our last episodes on drones and 5G, followed by our episode on autonomous vehicles. For KNBA and Hub 350, there is always so much to learn and so many connections to be made. Be sure to stay connected and follow us on all of our socials, at Hub_350 or at Hub350 and at Canada North BA.
Thank you to our guests, Leo Lax, the Executive Managing Director at Elspark, Ben Morris, the Vice President of Technology Strategy at Wesley Clover, Amy Karam, a 5G thought leader at TELUS, Kevin Hallen, the Chief Product Officer at CliniConnex, and Bruce Ford, the CEO and founder of Celestra Health Systems.
And finally, a big thank you to our contributors, Jordan Canwell and Poria Prasai, my co-hosts for today's episode, as well as Raj Balodia and Tyron Khan.
And a big thank you to Daria Ivastik, our third co-host for today.
Thank you for listening to the 5G Hub, a podcast brought to you by Hub 350.